Now before we start the migration, it is highly recommended you type this command. iPrint is the tool that's going to be creating these objects. And we must ensure that it can authenticate. Here's a simple command that will require an authentication. Admin is who I logged in as to the migration tool, so that's the username I should type in here. Do not put a context, no dots, just admin. It's actually authenticating against the unique ID, which is the CN. Put in the admin password, and in my case, my authentication succeeded. So if this were to fail for any reason, there's no sense in continuing with the migration. The migration will fail. This requires LUM, and it requires the administrative user to be LUM enabled, which in this case it is. So I know it will successfully authenticate using the iPrint tool. I filled out everything I need here, and I am going to start the migration. I click the Start button. Yes, I'll call it Project 2. Yes, I want to proceed with the migration. And while this is running, I am going to watch the migration in the log file. So tailf var opt novell migration new proj2 log iprint.log. We can see that iPrint has already been executed to determine that the IDS is active. NCP shell is being run, which is a program that copies files to the network server and from the network server. We authenticated using that. Notice we copy an NLM to the sys ndps directory called psmimport.xml. We're copying it from the Linux server to the network server. This NLM launches on the network server, creates a text file, this psmimport.xml, which has all the printer agent information of the network server, and then copies it to a temporary directory on the Linux server, and it's NCP shell, of course, that copies that file. And then we take that XML file and we transform it to a Linux format, and then we'll later use that XML file to import printer agent information to my Linux print manager, and all of that uses iPrint to do that. Notice right here we are doing some more work with that NLM file. Here's that psminfo.xml file, and here it's showing that it's copied to this temporary location. It looks like it's doing it more than once, which is fine. And at some point it is going to, here it migrates the iPrint INI because we checked that box saying that we did want that, so it copied that over. And on the Linux side, it goes in var opt novell iPrint htdocs is the location where that goes. Now we are starting to migrate printer drivers. We're using iPrint again, which is a binary that, and by the way, iPrint can be spelled IPRNTMAN or IPRINTMAN. And we use NCP shell to copy the driver, and then we use iPrint to upload the driver. Notice it's being uploaded to, well, here on the network server is on sys ndps resdir English prndrv. I have a Linux driver that I had in there, and it takes that ndps drvr.zip and it copies it to the Linux server. And notice here we're uploading. Here's happens to be a HP LaserJet 5 driver to the driver Windows NT 5.1. NT 5.1 means XP, 32-bit, and it uploads it to that repository. And here we're taking another driver, and the part that takes probably the longest of all of this is the driver migration. It has to copy the driver from the network server to the Linux server, and then do an upload to the Linux driver store. The upload, of course, using the iPrint man tool. And now we're doing a Windows 7 64-bit driver. And now we are stopping the driver store. We're using the iPrint man command, ids-stop. And this is on server .228, which is my Linux server. And once this completes, it's going to then start to execute the XML file. That's the last step. The XML file, which I'll show you what it looks like after this migration is complete, is a text file. That's where we're at right now. Processing printer item, some number of 202, and it's completed successfully. Now it did fail on one driver, and it gave me that message and let me know that. So that's something I as the administrator can look at that. So let's get out of here, and I'm going to show you that XML file. This novel iPrint bin psmimport.xml. This is the transformed XML, the Linux style XML that was used to generate all the printer agent information in the Linux Print Manager database. Notice it knows my Linux Print Manager name. It knows the address to which the print manager is bound. Remember, we talked about in a previous segment how on NetWare you can bind a print manager to a DNS name. Well, this is the name that this Linux print manager is bound to. Here's the DS server. We talked about that, the directory server that it's used to authenticate when loading the print manager. We have our driver store that is servicing this print manager. And we have some ACLs defined. And this is all the information on the print manager. And then we have information on a printer. Notice we have PRNTR1, which is the name of my printer. And notice it's created in that LX container that because I said I want to do a target printer migration. Here's the IP address that the printer agent is pointing to. We have a bunch of ACLs listed here. Here are the drivers that are associated to this printer one. We have a Canon driver for the Windows NT 5.1, which is XP. We have our Linux driver. And I have mismatches here. I have a HP driver associated for the Linux side. Typically it'll all be the same make model, but I'm not typical in this demonstration. And then here's my Windows NT 6.1, which is my my Windows 7 64-bit driver association. And then we go on to printer 2, and so forth. You'll see it goes all the way through printer 3, 4, 5. All my printers are listed here. And at the end we have our profile. I have a profile, that's what I called it, and there's the printer driver profile data. If you look at all that binary data, that takes up a lot of space in this text file, and then we're done. Now this same similar file, let's look here. var op novel iPrint, and then the print manager name. Look at this directory. We have a PA directory. We have 5 PA directories. That represents each printer agent. It's the spooling location where the print jobs are temporarily spooled when they're sent from the client to the server, waiting to be sent to the printer. And then I have these XML files. Notice this one is small. It's only 533 bytes. Let's look at it. This is the smaller one. This is the older one. Notice it doesn't have any printer agent information. All it has is a print manager. This is what my print manager looked like prior to the migration. Now let's look at the current one, the larger one. Notice I have printers, and these are the printers that were migrated from the NetWare server. This is a text representation of the print manager database. This migration appears to be successful, and in our next video segment we're going to verify that it was successful and then show you how to migrate or get the clients to point to the new Linux server.